This show is intended for all audiences, but some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener caution is advised.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Quest. I am your host, as always, Dr. RPG Jeff Harvey. You can follow me on Twitter at IronDevore. You can find the show at geekfeedshow.com or the quest at geekfeedshow.com or the quest.geekfeedshow.com or whatever those stupid things that you type into the URL are. We're also on Facebook at Geek Feed Show. And this week, I have a fun episode for you. We're going to be joined by Will Donovan of Twinfire Games, talking about the production that he's working on, the Kickstarter that he is actually working on for a game called Folklore, the Affliction, along with Greenbrier Games. We have a good interview. There's a few technical errors, so I want you guys to be aware that things didn't go the way we wanted to them in this episode, but hopefully you get the information. And if you have any questions about anything about this game that we don't answer in this episode, you can feel free to shoot me questions at geekfeedshow.com. I know that's a lot of saying at and such in one sentence, but that's because I'm not working with a script today. Not that I normally do anyways, which is the reason the shows are as high quality as they are. Anyways, the interview goes pretty well. It's not very long. This is a fairly short episode all in all. I don't have any news this week for the show. I don't have any news this week as far as other Kickstarters that are going on. I do have this to say. We're going to be trying to get some more guests in the show. We're going to be talking with the guys from Lone Wolf again very soon to talk more about Hero Lab. We've got a review of the Hero Lab product itself coming up in the very near future, as well as the review for Mutants and Masterminds. And there's a few other episodes we have in the works. I know the shows aren't coming out as regular as we would like them to come out and as much as you guys like them to come out, but we are working on some new episodes, and with any luck, we'll have some new things going on that we can share with you guys. I'm going to be joined in the very near future by a new, at least part-time co-host. His name is Rich. You'll be able to see him, hear him on the show very soon when we talk reviews of some other games coming out, as well as Patrick, who you can catch on one of the latest episodes of the Geek Feed show. He's going to be joining us to talk about some of the games that he's recently got a hold of. And we're going to do a classic board gaming review, and we're working on getting together a board game night here in the Southeast Michigan area. I know that some of the other shows that are in the area, like the Rack Show, they're currently doing the Second and Charles Game Nights, which is a great event. You should check them out. I don't have a link to their stuff at the moment, but you can just Google the Rack Show and Second and Charles Game Night, and you should be able to find them without too much trouble. As for us, we're going to be going back and doing more stuff at the Morning Owl Cafe in Milan, and there'll be some game nights there, and we're working with some other gaming shops in the region and trying to get some game nights together with them. Hopefully you guys enjoy this show, and I guess I've talked and rambled enough for considering that I don't really have a lot to say at the moment. So without any further ado... All right, joining me today is Will Donovan from Twinfire Games. Will, how you been?
Wonderful.
Good. Before we get started really getting into what's going on with what we're talking about today, let's tell everybody about who you are and who you work with.
Okay, so I am the co-owner of Twinfire Games, and we are currently partnered with Greenbrier Games to produce Folklore, the Affliction, which is a dark fantasy RPG-based board game. So it's kind of a hybrid between an RPG and a board game. Takes place, in early modern Eastern Europe, and you go on adventures based on the various stories that are included within the game.
Right.
That's a very, very high level.
Right. You've got a Kickstarter up and everything like that. But before we talk too much about that, let's tell everybody where you're from.
Okay, so I'm based out of Michigan, Bowling, Michigan. Been here my whole life, and I actually get around the country quite a bit, but this is my home base.
Nice. What got you interested in gaming?
Well, my gaming history is long. I've been gaming since I was a little kid with the original red box of D&D.
Nice.
And that was my. So I was always a really strong role player. The past 10 years is when I started to get back into the board games. I used to do old stuff back in the day, like with Avalon Hill and some of those old school games, and the classic Dungeon and so forth. But the past 10 years is when I really started to get back into games, and my I was actually introduced back into that world of gaming with board games via my wife, who's not a gamer, but she had some friends who were gamers, and she knew that like I was into that as well in the past. So she kind of connected me to some people of common interest. So that's kind of a. It was in a resurgence of gaming, but I've been a role player like even through all that time, primarily as a dungeon master, but I like to play as well.
Right. I definitely understand being a GM more than a player, but I do love to play.
Yes.
What brought you to working with, or the idea of Folklore?
Well, I was actually I met my business partner through mutual friends, and he saw what I could bring to the table in terms of design and what I've done as a gamer, and I was it was kind of a funny my gaming friends always term me as the Martha Stewart of gaming because I like props and maps. I do a lot of cartography. I'm big on the immersive experience. So he saw some of that and he had his own ideas. So he approached me to partner with him to develop Folklore. So the idea originated from his brain, but we immediately synced up and it just clicked, and the rest is history.
Sounds like you'd have been a big fan of Hero Quest. Did you ever like that game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm currently running a new group through that because they've never been through it. So.
Oh, okay.
Your Kickstarter has definitely reached its funding. As of the time I wrote this stuff, you guys had more than double what you were asking for, over 800 backers.
We're at 235%.
Yeah.
Not to be specific. Watching it closely.
Yeah, well, I imagine you are. So I guess the real question is exactly what is Folklore? I mean, you did a little bit of describing it at the beginning, but what exactly is Folklore?
Okay, so Folklore is a game that is think like Diablo on a board game, that type of setting where it's really gritty and the people within the land are oppressed. All these supernatural events are occurring. It's not fantasy. It's more modern than that.
Okay.
So you're not going to see things like dragons and things like that, but you'll see creatures and so forth from true folklore, as well as some customized type of things that are more unique to the world. But it's a story-based game, campaign style, 100% cooperative, and it's for 1 to 5 players.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so you read through a narrative, and it's very in depth in terms of the narration. So some of those other story type games out there, there may be a page or two of the whole story. Ours span many pages, multiple pages, and each story takes about, on average, about 120 minutes. But they're broken up into chapters, so you can, do multiple chapters or one chapter if you have a short gaming session or whatnot.
Right.
And you work through the stories, and it leads you across a world map as a group to certain locations. You can go to towns and things like that, but what the main core is, the story will lead you to what we call an adventure location, like a dark forest or a haunted castle or something like that, right? So you go in, and then it zooms in into these adventure maps, which are, most of them are 10 by 10 tactical maps. And then as miniatures, you go through combat, you solve puzzles, and you have to achieve your goals that are set forth within the story. And ultimately, your goal is to rid the land of the affliction that is the center point of the story that you're going through.
Okay, what is it like a European, more folklore, a European style setting? Is it?
Yeah, well, this setting is Eastern Europe, but there's a lot of things that we're doing to broaden that. So certainly we can only do so much within one box, okay, but
Right.
there's a lot of opportunity for expansion. And one thing that we have, which is really going to burst open the world of folklore, is we have a partnership with Ed Greenwood, who is the creator of the Forgotten Realms universe within
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons, probably the most famous setting within D&D. And we've signed a partnership, Twin Fire and the Ed Greenwood Group, to produce a series of novels. Right now, there's targeted 40 novels over the next 10 years. So 4 novels a year at this point. And it's not like, oh, this is going to happen if the board game is successful, which it has been so far.
Right.
I mean, this is done, right? We already have the first 10 books already slotted for authors, and there's a lot of demand to do more. And one of the reasons why I bring that up is that it's not just within the setting of the board game. We're pushing it to be more international. So we have some stories already based in Japan, India, America. I mean, we're spanning the globe with the story, which is going to open up a lot of possibilities for expansions and so forth, additional content. In addition to that, we're partnering with them to develop a series of role-playing adventures for their Quick Blade role-playing rules that they're releasing, but they're going to be generics. The purpose of it is to make them generic enough that will work across any role-playing system.
Nice.
Okay, so yeah, so there's the adventure of folklore. The board game is just the first step to broaden the whole product set.
What sets Folklore apart from other cooperative type RPG games?
One of the real unique aspects of the game that we're really proud of is the fact that, as you play, it's dangerous, right? There's a good chance that you may die. We wanted to make it very challenging so that you felt like fear, like, oh, we're encountering this group of werewolves. Oh my God, are we going to survive? We wanted to have that tension there.
Right.
And you certainly can die, right? We don't want to make it impossible, but we want to make it challenging. But if you die, it's not over. It's a really feature where as soon as you die, you basically become a ghost. And the thought process is that the world where you're playing, the veil between this and the other world, the other side is thin. So those of strong will can kind of manifest themselves. Okay, so you're not fully dead when this happens, but you're still linked to your body by a thread. But you can interact with the world as a ghost. Okay, and help out. You can even participate in combat, fight other spirits, do a number of things, right?
Nice.
Each character has unique ghost powers and so forth that they can employ. And if you survive as a ghost, which I'll talk about in a second, you can make it back to town, and the physician in town can resuscitate you and bring you back. If you use what we call all your ghost points, which is basically your spiritual energy, by using special abilities or being attacked, and just like you can attack a spirit as a regular character, creatures can attack you as a spirit. Okay, you have some advantage with a status we call ethereal, which makes you take less damage, but there's still risk. So if you lose those ghost points, you go into limbo. Okay, which is you're severed from your body and you're gone basically. However, when you go back to town after the adventure is over, or maybe this happens early on for some reason, and you can get back to town, you can visit the gypsies. And they'll bring you back for a price. Basically, you have to draw a tarot card, and each tarot card is unique, and it has a negative thing that attaches to your character. Okay, and that stays with you throughout the rest of your journeys, the rest of the stories, unless you go to a certain location and get rid of it. So there's ways to get rid of it, but it's certainly something you don't want to have happen. So it's a good balance. I remember just a playtest I did recently with some other folks, the League of Nonsensical Gamers. It was quite a memorable final battle we had, because we had some really bad dice rolls, and we had some guys summon some werewolves, and it was like we were already in a tough battle as it is, and it was a close one. We were playing 3 players, and 2 of us became ghosts, and we were down to our last ghost points, but we pulled it out, and we solved it, and everybody was able to survive. So and that's kind of the kind of tension we like. I mean, that was a really good session. I really liked how that worked out.
Nice. Can you describe like any more detail, like how the actual gameplay of the game goes down?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, you start by reading the narrative, okay, and the first story is a tutorial. So there's sections within the tutorial or within the story that kind of tell you what to do, so you don't have to keep referring back to the rules. We wanted to make it so that you could pick up the story journal, just jump right in and kind of make it work as you go along, without having to read the book fully, okay? Because, nobody likes to have spend an hour or two reading a manual and then playing.
Right.
So, we try to make the transition very easy. So you start reading the narrative, and it kind of sets the stage. It tells you where you need to go. Throughout the narrative, there's certain story-based things that happens, like story-based skill checks. Skill checks are a major feature of the game where, let's say you run into a group of brigands, right? Or highwaymen, we call them in the game. And they're assaulting somebody. So what you need to do is make in this particular situation, you make a speech check to try to calm them down, talk them off from trying to chase them away, so to speak. So everybody has a certain number of base skills that they start with, and those can grow throughout your progression as a character. And it's basically a D10 system. And do that modifiers. You have a target, and so it's pretty fast and easy. And there's positive and negative outcomes that occur. Okay, so things that throughout the narrative that can happen in addition to skill checks are a certain type of combat. So we have two combat mechanics. We have a skirmish combat, and we have an encounter combat, which uses miniatures. The skirmish combat is role based, and it's actually quite a dynamic system. We've actually grown it a lot over the past 12 months, and every creature that you encounter it has skirmish rolls. So you basically you determine the strength of the skirmish based on the number of characters in the game, whether they're alive or dead, meaning a ghost or regular. So then what you do is you determine that strength, and then there's a skirmish counter, which determines how strong the skirmish is from a modifier's perspective. So let's say you roll a d6 and the skirmish strength is 5. There may be some positive or negative modifiers based on the size of the skirmish. Okay, and then the creatures attack you, you attack them, and so forth. And as you hit them, the skirmish strength goes down. But each creature has unique skirmish powers that can affect you. So it's not like this just a dice rolling fest. There's a lot of character to it, and there's other options as well. So, for example, you can choose to attack and you can defend. You can certain creatures can be dealt with not just by attacking, but by various skills. So I mentioned the highwayman, for example. So let's say you're saying, I'm going to try to scare them off. So you could potentially do a skill check for that if you choose, and then that can reduce their skirmish strength even farther because some of their number run off, so to speak, right?
Right.
So it's pretty dynamic. So that usually happens through story narration because it doesn't require miniatures. It's just dice and cards. And then also, I mentioned earlier, we placed a lot of emphasis on replayability and choice. So, let's say you have a skill check. You can, some skill checks, it designates a certain person that has to do it. Other ones you can decide as a group, like, oh, this person's really good at archaeology. They have a good archaeology skill. Why don't you do this one? So we will be more successful as a group because it is cooperative, right?
Right.
Other things that can happen are choose your own path events. So there's a lot of choose your own path opportunities within the games. So, for example, let's say, hey, a farmer approaches you and is looking for help. Do you help him, or do you decide not to have enough time? So your time is a precious commodity, so you decide to move on and not help him. So there's various things that can impact the outcome of the story and influence, what happens next. Okay. There's also things in the game called story markers, which is another choice type event, or not necessarily even choice. Sometimes it's a choice in how you get it or if you get it. But, if you have a certain story marker, there's 3 of them in the game. There's blue, red, and green. If you, let's say you grab a blue story marker because it tells you to within the narration because you did something. Okay. Mm-hmm. You don't know if it's good or bad. The impact of that, but later on in the story, if you have that story marker, something happens. Okay, so there's some longer term influences in that way. So there's a lot of things with that. I mean, more on replayability is just, I mean, the characters themselves are very customizable. There's a large number of specialized abilities. There's focuses that you can choose, or professions that you can change the way your character acts and behaves from a mechanics perspective, as well as just a role playing perspective. And there's there's just a lot of stuff that are in the game to make it enjoyable, so you can play through the same story multiple times and with multiple characters and so forth.
Right.
But so as you go through and do these various things, you'll eventually end up at a certain eventual location, and then you would zoom in, and with miniatures you'd explore. So you're given a certain set of goals. Maybe you land on a board and there's some creatures there that you have to encounter, and then you have to figure out, oh, okay, that's done, but I have to go and try to figure out how to unlock this door or solve this puzzle. Okay, so you do that, and then once you do everything you need to do, then you go to what we call the exit zone, and then once you're in the exit zone and you've done everything that's required, you can then transition off of that. Okay, and some of the things you can do on a board are optional. Okay, it's not that you have to do every single thing, and then it may either continue with the narration at that point, or it may move you to a different map that you then continue your further exploration in your hunt to figure out what's going on within the story.
Now, talk about a little bit about character choices. You said that there's a lot of different variations in the characters. Is it the 4 base classes, or do you have a choice of expanded different types of characters? I know the Arkham horror games, a lot of those have different characters you can play. You choose between which ones you want to use for the story, and you build your party. Is that like this, or is this more of a D&D? You have a fighter, warrior?
Yeah, so we don't have those classic archetypes. It's we have our own. We have the telepath, which is she has strong mental capabilities and can use her mind to do things as a telepath would. We have one of my favorite characters is the Avenging Madman, who's a farmer who fell asleep in his barn one night after working really hard, and he wakes up and his family's been slaughtered by vampires and his wife's missing. Right, so he's full of rage and vengeance. So he tracks the creatures to the land where the game takes place. And he's revenge crazy. So he has abilities like that are like environmental slaughter. Well, if an enemy dies next to him, he can then rip off its limb and attack another one that's close by, or Chomper, where he bites his enemies as a second attack. Okay, those are abilities that you can learn through the game. Some of them each character has 2 starting abilities, and then you can, as you progress and gain lore, which is the knowledge that you gain by discovering things and so forth. You have a skill tree that you go up, and you gain ability points as you go up the skill tree, as well as some other things. So we have him. We have the Witch Hunter, which is he's kind of a bounty hunter type of character class. We have the Arcanist, which is she's kind of a French character that kind of rides the dark side. So she uses rituals and questionable dark arts for the purpose of good, but she's kind of like she's hungry for knowledge, but she uses that knowledge and the darkness to fight the darkness. Okay, then we have the exorcist, who is sent on holy edict to purge the world of the demonic and the unclean, right? And then the archaeologist, which is he has a whip and he goes in the hunt of knowledge and so forth. So, and then we have some characters that are unlocked. So those are the 6 base characters, but based on the stretch goals we've reached, I think 2 characters, we actually are $500 away from the next stretch goal, I think, which is the illusionist, who uses parlor magic and sleight of hand to his advantage. And then we have a character that was unlocked earlier, was there courtesan, who is she has long knives that she uses to skewer her enemies, and she's a kind of nimble and a trickster herself, or subterfuge, So some cool characters, and we have actually 4 more that are potentially available depending on how far we get with the Kickstarter.
Nice. How close to the gameplay rules do you think the tie-in RPG is supposed to be? I mean, if you learn one set of rules, are you going to have to do something else? Is it going to be compatible?
Well, so the rules of the role-playing game will, as I mentioned before, will be as generic as possible. Okay, so it can fit other role-playing systems. So there'll be, if you play this, adventure, put these things in place. I can't tell too much
Sure.
both from confidentiality standpoint with the Greenwood Group, but also the fact that a lot of those details are being ironed up
Sure.
by Stephen Shend and team. So.
The minis look really amazing. You can check them out on the Kickstarter, which of course we'll have a link to in the show notes. Who is the designer?
Of the game?
No, of the minis.
I think it's Kyle. There's a couple sculptors that Greenbrier employs. I should know their names off the top of my head, but I'm terrible with names.
That's fair.
So I'll just pass and call names
Sure.
just because I don't want to embarrass myself. But yeah, they're two talented sculptors that Greenbrier employs for all their games. And as you said, I mean they're incredible. And there are some really impressive miniatures that we're hoping to be able to get done, that we have some preliminary sketch work on that I know will be fantastic as well. So we gotta get those stretch goals going.
Right. So we talked about the designers. That's the designers for the minis. But were you one of the designers of the actual gameplay and game itself?
Yeah, I'm actually the one of the co-creators of the game itself,
right.
And along with my business partner, and we went on this journey together, and then we put Greenbrier on board for a number of reasons. And one of the reasons is their miniatures.
Right.
And they had a lot more experience, frankly, in the whole manufacturing process and distribution and all that. I mean, they just brought a lot to the table that could help us be successful in this. So it's been a great partnership. It's really, as you can see by the Kickstarter itself, I mean, it looks great. We've done a lot of good things together. We've just done a lot of collaboration and creation. So it's been definitely a team effort.
Yeah. Your base pledge level on Kickstarter is $95, and you order, which your deluxe edition then includes all of the unlocked starter materials and stretch goals and things like that. Is the $149 price point of the deluxe, at that price point, what kind of build quality can people really expect?
Well, I mean, as far as, I mean, what really the deluxe level is, you just get more, right? So you not only get the base game, but you get the Kickstarter exclusive pack that you do with the core, the $95 stretch level. But then you also get the Ghost miniature pack, and then you get the character record sheets and the counter pad, and you also get another set of miniatures that are just like, they're basically a duplication of the Kickstarter exclusive pack miniatures, but they're a different color. So you can use them to, let's say you're countering two creatures on the board, two Night Stalkers, let's say, which are basically werewolves in human form. You can have like a gray one, which is the standard color, and then the tan one, which is the alternate color, and it's just easier to track. So it's not necessarily required, right? But it enhances the game experience.
Sure.
So you get those things. I mean, so we wanted to keep the stretch goals, very tight and not offer a dozen of them like some Kickstarters. It seems to be more the trend to offer less, but it also just makes it easier. I mean, if you want extra stuff that aren't part of the stretch goals, and there's add-ons, right? For example, the one that I'm really looking forward to is the player box, because it's has a magnetic lid that you can just have all your stuff in the character box, and you can have the character card right up there. And the whole lid's magnetic, so you can put magnets up to hold up your abilities and your items that you're using actively and things like that. It's just really, really neat. All those are custom, the high-end type of add-ons that obviously are not required, but they're kind of neat.
Just enhancements.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to make this and not only a good game, but we wanted to provide some really high-end add-ons for the collectors and those who really have been following the game and supporting it, and who we know that would really appreciate some of those things.
Yeah. So that's we've talked about Folklore, but we didn't talk very much about Twin Fire Games. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about what that is and how it came to be.
Okay, well, I mentioned earlier in the interview that I met my partner through some mutual friends, actually at Gen Con, and we started a game together, and then we decided to partner up to create some games. And we actually, Folklore is kind of what is our first game, and it was an aggressive one that we said, this will make or break us,
Right.
because it's very aggressive. I mean, this is one of those big box games. It's not a simple card game or something like that. I mean, it's a big game.
It's very ambitious.
So yeah, very ambitious. But we decided to go for broke, and we're both aggressive people, and we wanted to be successful, and we wanted to create the game that we would be proud of. And but we have a number of other games that are shelved for now until we get this done. But we're excited. We'll be a lot less aggressive than this one, right? This is the big box. Although the other games are still very, very nice games and all, but the different types of genres and so forth.
Sure.
So there's a lot of things that we have that we're excited to work on after we get this project done, as well as just continuing on this line with additional expansions and so forth. But we kind of clicked, and we've been working together on these things ever since.
Nice.
So
Folklore, as we said, is already funded, and it's expected to ship sometime in October of 2016. Given the scope and the ambition of this game, is that a realistic launch date?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, the game's mostly done, right? The only thing we really have to take into account are, depending on how far we go with the stretch goals, we just have to accommodate additional content and so forth to make sure that everything's tied together nicely. But I mean, the rules, I mean, outside of maybe some tweaks here and there that we'll make as time goes on, the game's, it's designed. I mean, it's there. It's
right.
done. So it's just, and we have most of the sculpts done. We have most of the art done. I mean, we're in really good shape in terms of being able to hit the production timing.
Good. Where can folks can folks that are not familiar with the Kickstarter or didn't have a chance to back it, because I mean, if they're listening to this show well after the Kickstarter's over, when will they have a chance to get their hands on Folklore?
Okay, well, there's also, of course, like the pledge managers that will be, you'll be able to do stuff with that. I'm not actively involved in terms of that piece of it,
sure.
But I think that you can potentially get the game via that route. But also, we are planning to have this available in retail. So the unfortunate thing with the retail side is it's not going to come with all the stretch goals.
Sure.
So if you don't back it, then it's you're only going to get the base game.
Right.
So, but we're planning, and I think again, not really my department, but I know that it'll be available on Amazon directly from Greenbrier. Obviously, we'll be selling it at the cons that we attend, and of course the game shops wherever we can gain traction there.
Right. Will you, or any of your team, essentially, I guess, be running any demos of the game? I assume at shows like Gen Con or other conventions you're going to be at. Oh,
you bet, absolutely. So yeah, this year we shared a booth with Greenbrier, which would make sense because they're manufacturing and producing this game, and because it was we had a small demo table, but in the future, we'll obviously do more, and we'd like to have actual events at these things. Plus, I know Greenbrier is working on doing a lot of game shop events around Folklore, meaning where you can come in and play and so forth,
right.
In more of a living type of experience with that. Last year at Gen Con in 2014, we did the early playtesting hall where we did 2-hour adventures with gamers, and we could potentially do stuff like that too. But that would probably be, because the game will be manufactured, we'll be more in the event side of things.
How long
register?
How long has this game been in development?
Quite a while. It was slow to start, where we were just kind of generating our ideas and how we really wanted to approach this, plus working on other games at the same time.
Right.
Where the meat of our activities really been in has been the last 3 years.
Right. You talk about other games. Do you have anything you can tell anybody about, or is it just pretty much this
not at this point?
Yeah.
Just because, I won't go there yet. But some cool stuff, different genres than the Folklore experience.
Nice. I don't really have much else there other than the last run of questions that we do for everybody. But if you have anything else you want to say about the game before we move on to the next set.
Well, I mean, what I'd like to just do is thank everybody who's backed the project so far. I mean, we couldn't make this possible without the folks out there, and we want to make sure that you get the best game as possible. I mean, we've had a ton of fun making it, a ton of fun playing it, and we've had a lot of supporters as well who have played the game at cons and so forth that have been with us true the entire time. So we're really happy with that, and we just spread the word. Visit the Kickstarter, visit us on Facebook, visit us on Board Game Geek, and just keep spreading the word. Yeah.
You mentioned Facebook. Go ahead and tell people what your social media is. Like where
okay, so it's So the Folklore Facebook page is Folklore facebook.com/Folklore the Affliction. Okay. Pretty easy. You can also follow at least Twinfire Games at Twinfire Games on Twitter. And let's see, what else do we have? The Kickstarter. The best choice, just go to Kickstarter. It should be out there. Right. Just search on Folklore and you'll find it. And what else? Google Plus. I have the link around here someplace that would tie you back to Greenbrier. Yeah. We don't have that set up for Folklore. Right. But the best place to go really is Facebook, Kickstarter, and and that will show you everything you need. Right. And go to the Greenbrier page website. Greenbrier, and Briar is spelled. I'm terrible at spelling, but it's not the standard B-I-E. It's B-I-E. Let me write this down here. Embarrassing myself. B-R-I-E-R. Right. Okay. So you can go there, and there's a page on Folklore that will explain things in more depth. Just a lot of materials out there. So check it out.
And we'll have links in the show notes for all of that stuff. So just to make sure.
Okay, great.
No problem there.
You can edit my spelling error in on this.
Yeah, well,
no, I'm just kidding.
The small errors that we've had in this show, I think have mounted to more errors in this episode than I've had in the last 4 episodes combined. So it is what it is, and that's how it goes. But
that's right.
Let's talk a little bit about at the end of every show, or in every interview, anyways, I like to do a series of a couple questions. It's very inside the actor studio kind of stuff, and NPR is the way, I guess. So these are just questions that the fans, it's just a chance for them to get to know you better a little bit. So,
sure.
Which famous person would you want to play you in a film?
Oh, geez. And this brings back a lot of nostalgia. And it's probably not a popular choice, but I would say Kyle MacLachlan. Okay. I used to be a huge fan of his. Still am, from the Dune days and Twin Peaks and so forth. I'd love to be portrayed by him in a movie.
Nice. Which three people, famous or otherwise, would you most likely invite to a dinner party?
Audrey Hepburn.
Nice.
The aforementioned Kyle MacLachlan. And I would say, who else? I would say my mom, because she's not around anymore.
Nice.
And she's not famous, but she was in my eyes.
Didn't have to be famous. That works. I mean, it's always nice to see your mom one more time.
That's right.
What Looney Tunes character would you be?
Sylvester.
Nice. That's a good one. What song best describes you?
Oh, geez. That's a tough one. I don't know if I can answer that one. I'd have to think about it.
That's fair.
I'll tell you what. I'll send you an email later and after I thought into it. I'm not quite sure.
All right. What do you think about when you are alone in the car?
When I think about when I'm alone in the car, what's next? I guess. What do I have to do? Right now, it's Folklore. That's consuming all my thoughts right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What's your favorite word?
Thanks.
What's your least favorite word?
No.
All right. Here's the last one. A giraffe walks in the door wearing a brown coat and an eye patch. What's the very first thing he says?
That's an interesting one. First thing he says, where are the cigars? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, some people make Firefly references, but that's about the only thing.
Okay.
So there's no consistency.
That's right. I wouldn't think there would be.
No. That's kind of the point of that question. Do you have anything else you want to add?
No, Jeff, appreciate having me on. And again, check out the Kickstarter. We really
Awesome.
appreciate your support.
Right, and I apologize for the errors that we had, and hopefully, if you once everything is done and you get around to actually launching the game next year or releasing the Kickstarter stuff, and we can have you back on and talk about it then.
Sounds good.
So awesome. All right, again, thank you for joining me, and we'll talk to you later.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
And that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, if you have any questions, please let us know at questions@geekfeedshow.com. That's questions@geekfeedshow.com. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. Find us at Facebook at Geek Show, online at thequest.geekfeedshow.com, and Twitter at IRNerdivore. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and may the dice roll ever in your favor.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go back to New Orleans. You know it hurts me so. Baby, I'm way down here. You know I'm way down here. Baby, I'm way down here in a rolling fog. Baby, please.